There's a story going on across the country in our animal shelters that can inspire all of us. It's a story about social change, leadership, and the intense bonds that we share with our pets. And even if you're not interested in animal shelters, it's something that you should know about. This is a map of the United States showing all of the places where all of the animal shelters have stopped killing pets. And that's great news because not that long ago there weren't any of those. Today there are more than 140 cities and counties where all of the animal shelters are no-kill. How is the no-kill movement sweeping the nation, and how did each of these dots get on the no-kill map? They're all fascinating stories with amazing people. So join me as I go boots on the ground to some of my favorite no-kill communities to talk to the people there who made it happen. One of the most dramatic transitions to no-kill happened on January 15, 2017. It was like switching on a light. Before the transition to no-kill, the Lake County Animal Shelter was unremarkable, like most any other Central Florida rural shelter. That all changed when the Board of County Commissioners in Lake County decided to make the facility no-kill. On the 2-year anniversary of the transition, I decided to hop a plane back to Lake County, Florida to see how things were going. I'm here in downtown Mount Dora, one of the picturesque little towns in Lake County, and I'm right across from Lake Dora, one of 200 lakes that give the county its name. According to traditional animal shelter thinking, achieving no-kill in a small community like this would have been impossible, especially since the population is spread out over such a large geographic area. And prior to the transition to no-kill, the animal shelter was taking in 7,000 animals a year, including a lot of farm animals like cows and goats and pigs and horses. Today in Lake County, every healthy or treatable pet gets all the care that they need for as long as they need it, no matter what the species. But it hasn't always been that way.
It was heartbreaking. I'm gonna cry. To go in there and spend time with a dog that you're videoing and spend time with that dog and loving that dog. I'm clearly obviously a dog lover, an animal lover at heart, but to go in there and spend that time and go in the next day and find out that they killed it for no reason. There was no reason for it. It was heartbreaking.
There really wasn't that many volunteers at that time. The dogs were stuck in their kennels basically 23 and a half hours a day. Other than when they took them out to clean the kennels Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, I don't believe they were getting out at all.
So we went to the local Lake County shelter to adopt. And we were looking at 2 beautiful dogs. And we were only going to take one. And we were standing there talking, and we said, as a family, we said, okay, well, we're only going to take one. And the girl goes, well, that's fine. Whichever one you don't take, though, is going to be euthanized tomorrow.
I cried a lot. And just, as I said, you just have to go on because there's nothing you could do. It happened. And
the situation where when we weren't running the shelter, and I had been hearing different things about things happening at the shelter, and then we had this horrific situation where there were a number of animals that were put down. That was just like a nightmare.
For me, it started back in 2011 when I was up in New Jersey working at the FAA Tech Center, and Debbie and all of our rescue dogs were back here in Mount Dora. She started volunteering out at the shelter, and she learned about all the killings, the unnecessary killings taking place, and shared that with me, and that concerned both of us.
And as we were walking through the parking lot to leave that day, my oldest daughter, Haley, spoke up and says, you know, somebody should, or my wife said, I think it was, said somebody should really do something, you know, that's just not right. And she was talking about it on the way out. And then my oldest daughter turned to her and looked and said, well, aren't we somebody? And I was like, oof, I don't know if I can get to the car fast enough. This doesn't sound good.
Oh gosh, it broke my heart to know that all these animals are dying for no reason. And it's like, we have to do something. Otherwise, who's going to?
I started pulling records every month back in early 2012. I wanted to find out how many were coming in, how many were going out the back door the wrong way, and why they were being killed. So monthly records requests were submitted every month. I still do it to this day, and that paints the picture, a very clear picture of what's happening. That's what got me started, and it was very frustrating, aggravating, and sad all at the same time. And that's what led me to start digging in and trying to do more, and how do we fix this, and how do we become no-kill.
Their numbers didn't add up. We had to go back to the drawing board and fight even harder. I met Misfit. One of their daughters, Haley Weber, had gone to a lot of the county commissioners and had gone to a lot of the cities and was vocal for change and wanted to make a difference. And I kind of piggybacked off of them and figured if they could do it, if she could do it at 14 years old, that I could do it in my 40s.
They started going to county commissions meetings, trying to talk to people. They went to a state senator and talked to her, and she pretty much sent us back to the local county is where it has to start from. And then on the research we said, well, there's 14 cities in Lake County, so we started going to 14 different city meetings and talking to the different city councils, and one thing led to another. The next thing you know, we were a 501 nonprofit rescue, trying to spread the word, adopting as many animals as we could.
Probably one of the first times we heard about issues at the shelter, we're at a public meeting. We have a public comment period at our Board of County Commissioner meetings, and we had some folks come in and just talk about issues at the shelter. And that was probably the very first time, and I literally had no clue. I hadn't been out to see the shelter. I was recently, elected to the county commission. I wasn't super familiar with the shelter itself. But so that was the first time I got on my radar. But it gets interesting after that. The one daughter that would come to the microphone was Haley. And I have to say, I was a little taken aback because she was very passionate.
We were able to let people in the county know by social media, Facebook, that what was going on, and we would post 12 dogs that died today. And people were getting angry. And the more awareness we brought to the local public, the more fired up they got, which gave us more power, I felt, to keep on going, made us stronger.
probably the next big step, the next thing that happened, was a meeting that Kent Weber set up with his daughter to actually come in and sit down with me to talk to me about some of the needs that they saw at the shelter. And at the time, we really didn't have much money. I mean, we were working on a shoestring budget as it was, but we were in a downturn in the economy and things were really stretched thin. So the idea that we could actually put more money into a program, especially one that wasn't considered a, quote, essential service, it just seemed out of the question, you know? So I wasn't even thinking creatively at that point. Like, could we use the same amount of money and just do a better job? In my mind, it was, oh, it must be about money and we don't have money to spend. But then I started thinking more about it. Well, there's got to be a way to tackle this.
I've never done anything like this before. I've never been actively involved in any type of social movement. Everybody's got their opinions on different things, but to dive head first and to try and to be that spark to make the change, county government really surprised me because I provided them with all the facts. This was not subjective Steve Shank talking. It was black and white. These are what other communities around the country, just like Lake County, was going through. This is what they were going through, and this is how they changed. And they're now no-kill. And most of them use the no-kill equation, the 11 steps to it, which is successful wherever it's implemented when all 11 steps are utilized. So the resistance from the county commissioners, I can't even tell you, at least hundreds of emails that I sent through the years. You don't get a reply, except for Commissioner Capione. You get no response. And I know what they're thinking. They're thinking that it's one person and it's no big deal, but we're doing the best we can. The status quo is holding firm. The status quo is failing, but they feel that it's holding firm. It's the best we can do right now.
There were a few things that happened. I went to the shelter. I looked at the shelter myself. That was probably a pivotal point when I actually allowed myself to really see it and feel it and observe what the situation was from a physical standpoint, and then to understand more about exactly how decisions were being made as far as which animals would be kept and which animals would be put down. And essentially what I found is that the county was using euthanasia as a population control mechanism. I guess at that point I got sick to my stomach. I thought, I had no idea. I did not know that was what was being done. I just assumed that euthanasia was something that was done only when it had to be done. And then I began looking at the numbers, and I think it was probably the numbers that really started to get to me, because I thought, how can this possibly be happening? And I don't think people in our county even know it.
A couple of incumbent county commissioners, won't mention their names, but they were very resistant to any change in the shelter. They thought they were doing a fine job.
There was a lot of resistance initially. A lot of the focus was on the fact that they thought it would cost a lot more money. How could you possibly have a no-kill shelter and not spend a whole lot of money just providing a place for animals to live out the rest of their lives? They didn't understand that the point was to help them find homes.
But when those two county commissioners, who thought they were bulletproof, got sent packing with two surprise new commissioners that came in.
And it was an issue that was spoken about in the election. So there's no question. It was something that we began to talk about when we talked about who did we want on the county commission. And did we want people that saw this as an important part of our Lake County value system? I mean, I don't know how else to put that. It's about values. It's about how you feel about animals and how they should be treated, and just basic, decency. And I think that's Lake County people. They wanted a no-kill shelter. They wanted the best shelter we could have within a reasonable amount of money. So I think that drove the election to a certain degree, because it became an issue that it motivated people to pick a candidate based on who wanted to see changes at the shelter.
The shelter it needed cleaned. It was not very clean. The office spaces were just a mess. I don't even know how else to say it. I knew that we had an uphill battle to get it to the point of being presentable for the public. At that point, I felt that it was not really presentable to the public for what we were looking forward to making it. But I also knew that there was potential there because we had a lot of good people, that had a good basis, a good heart, and they wanted to make this better. So that was what I hung on to that first week, thinking, okay, once the transition is over and this little bit of bumpiness, once that's over, I think we can build a team that is really going to work well. And so I kind of hung on to that. That was the first week. So it was a little bit scary, a little bit exciting, because I thought, wow, we have potential here and I can be part of a big movement. And animals just were pouring in, like daily 40 animals pouring in. And so that was a little bit daunting to start with. We set up immediately a system of incoming animals and outgoing animals. And the animals incoming, we were evaluating them as quickly as possible, and we were placing them with rescue groups. We were calling every rescue group that we could find. I had a list of all the 501c3 rescues in the area that we built a database to try to move these animals as quickly as possible. Between the staff and I, the animal care staff and my lead person, we really started from the ground level with, let's develop these rescues, let's coddle them, let's talk to them, let's win them over, let's be as pleasant as possible and see if they will help us because we needed them. That also transpired into the public. Every public person, immediately I put into place, we must greet these people. When they come in, we want them to come. We want them to like us. We want them to come back again and again and again. So we started walking people through the kennel as opposed to just letting them go. Just say, go ahead back there. We would walk them through. We would point out different animals. So just a more customer service related foundation that I felt would move us into a better position with the public. When I would have these morning meetings and I would talk about, in the month of February, we only had to let go, 5 animals. And you guys have done this. And that really was so inspiring to everybody.
To see the change that has come over, especially the past 2 years, is heartwarming. And to know that it's 99.9% better than it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And it definitely warms up my heart to see this change, especially for the animals who can't speak for themselves.
How do you feel about that on a personal level? Like that you did it, it's done, and you have changed this community forever. Can you talk about how?
Not really. I'll probably get emotional.
I don't care.
But yeah. something that important, when a lot of people are saying you can't do this, it's never going to happen, and you don't give up. And when you see it through, and it happens. As it did here. And you think about, you dig a little deeper and you think about all the animals that might have been saved because you didn't give up. And these are happy tears. They're joyful tears because I think I made a difference.
No, it will never be the same again. I mean, first of all, we try to teach the people. We have the spay and neuter programs out there, so they can get affordable spay and neutering. They have free clinics. We're going to be doing free microchipping. We're going to be able to, we have the Lost and Found team that now reunites these strays. So there's just many changes and more involvement with people.
It's actually happened fast.
Right.
You know, when we look back, it's been, a little over 7 years from the start, and in the last 2 years, it changed. Wow. Thanks to my wife and kids.
I told you it was an inspiring story with amazing people, and I will be forever honored with having been able to work with advocates, county commissioners, and staff to facilitate this remarkable transition to no-kill. I'm humbled by the commitment and passion they all brought to the effort. There's a lot that we can learn from the story. Most importantly, if no-kill can happen at the open admission animal control shelter in Lake County, where the shelter per capita intake is significantly higher than the national average, then it can happen anywhere. Another thing that we can learn is that people everywhere want killing in animal shelters to stop, and they see a failure to stop the killing as a failure in leadership. And even in a deep red community, in a deep red state like Florida, people are willing to go to the polls to remove elected officials from office if they resist. As Commissioner Campione so clearly stated, to voters, it's a matter of basic decency, particularly when achieving no-kill doesn't need to cost any more money. As more and more communities flip the switch to ending killing as a means of animal shelter population control, there will only be increasing pressure to follow the wonderful example set by the amazing people in Lake County, Florida. I'll end with this fun postscript. On the 2-year anniversary of Lake County achieving no-kill, they broke ground on what will be a new state-of-the-art animal shelter that will ensure that not only all homeless animals will be safe in Lake County, they will also have more comfortable accommodations until they find their new families. You can help them by supporting the shelter. They're selling bricks, benches, and other items that will be installed in the new shelter to honor and memorialize special people and pets. It's a great way to support their efforts while leaving a little bit of a legacy for yourself. If you'd like more information about how you can support Lake County's efforts, or if you'd like to begin transitioning your own shelter to no-kill, I'd be happy to help. My contact information is at the link, and thanks for watching.
up and go. A big world is out there waiting for us to live in every day. Outside you will find there is love all around you. It takes you, makes you wanna say that it's a beautiful